This meeting is being recorded.
Well, good morning again. Very glad you were with us for this panel presentation on prison ministry. My name is Cathy Bubb. I'm the current chair of the Commission on Nurture and Outreach for the Presbytery of Soda Valley. We are delighted to have 4 different groups represented here today who are going to share with us about prison ministry in this presbytery. I want to tell you why we're doing this. I'm part of a task team with Matthew 25 in our presbytery. Matthew 25, as many of you are aware, is an initiative in our denomination that has really a 3-tier focus. One is on dismantling structural racism. One is on eradicating systemic poverty. And the last is on building congregational vitality. And as we as a task group, we're exploring these. We have offered programs for the last couple of years in our presbytery. If you go to YouTube and check out Soda Valley YouTube, we have several of these sorts of conversations recorded on issues of poverty and racism and congregational vitality. And as we were talking about these issues and what might we explore next within those areas, I think it was Susan actually who brought the desire to really herself even learn more about prison ministry. Prison ministry particularly has a lot of issues of structural racism and systemic poverty are integrally tied up with issues of incarceration in this country. And so last month, some of you were with us as we had Juan Martinez, a speaker from Kindway, who shared some about both his personal experience in prison, as well as some of the ministry opportunities that he was aware of through his organization. And so we wanted to have the chance for our folks here in our congregations to share. So we're going to jump right in and invite Lynn Coon. And you know what, since we are a small group, I think I may just keep all of our lovely faces here because Lynn, I think you've got, maybe Martha's going to share with you or others as well. And so Lynn Coon is with Presbyterian Women, and she's going to share some of the ministry that she has. And I said that, but I think I will highlight you. So hold on here a second. So Lynn, the floor is yours. You're on mute though, so you'll need to unmute.
I'm vice moderator for mission interpretation in Presbyterian Women and began in that role April of 2021. Martha Poole became moderator at the same time, and she had a dream that mission interpretation would take on an ongoing mission project of some sort. And so my committee, which consisted of Muriel Bellou, Alice Harker, and Ruth Cooper, and myself, put our minds to it. And I said, well, one of my great loves is prison ministry, since I'd done that work through the Trinity Lutheran Theological Seminary for a couple of years, but the prisons were closed to us to volunteer due to COVID, and they were not letting us in even as COVID subsided, and still have not. And so we cast about, and Muriel had a very close tie to the youth facility in Lancaster, and even more so to the chaplain who works there through Central Ohio Youth for Christ and is the Juvenile Justice Ministry chaplain and director of spiritual programming at the Multi-County Juvenile Detention Center, not only in Lancaster, but he works with five of the juvenile facilities, in which basically are all in our presbytery. So Muriel got us to speak with Steve, and we asked Steve how we could work with initially just with Lancaster and Chillicothe and help me, Martha. Lancaster, Chillicothe, and
Perry County.
Looks like Lynn is frozen.
and Cheryl's cookies are their favorite snack. And which they would have to buy from the commissary. But we told them if we got Cheryl's cookies, the kids were to be gifted those, and we did not want them to have to pay for them. So we went into our fall gathering of 2021 asking the women of the Presbytery to contribute, to make donations, nothing physical, but cash or checks, because what Steve ended up with was a very specific list of books that each facility wanted. And it was a daunting task. We ended up providing over 100, we ended up raising $4,116, which was more than we ever imagined. We bought over 125 books, and in all of those, we placed a book plate saying with the PWPSV logo, compassion, justice, peace, pursuing God's dream. And then Martha found quotes for each of those, one of them being, "He that loves reading has everything within his reach." And then at the bottom of the book plate, it said, "This book was lovingly given by Presbyterian women in the Presbytery of Scioto Valley," so that they would know that there were people out there who cared about them. Because what I had learned in prison ministry was people who are locked up like that feel as if they're forgotten by the rest of the world, as if they don't exist. And so visitors and cards and anything that comes in from the outside world is so much appreciated and makes them feel a strong connection. So we bought the 125 books. We also got comic books, and some of the books were graphic novels, which kids these days really enjoy. We got boxes of 100 individually wrapped Cheryl's cookies, because that's one of the criteria. They must be individually wrapped. And so during the month of December, and the games, balls and Yahtzee and things like that, we bought with the money. We packaged it all up. And on Monday, December 13th, Martha Poole, Muriel Ballou, and Steve Telfer headed first to Lancaster, where they were very warmly received, in good part due to Steve's strong ties there. Muriel was even able to speak with a couple of the youth while there. And then it was off to New Lexington with Steve Telfer, where they were also joyfully received. And then Alice Harker was able to join them in Chillicothe. One of the people clearly at New Lexington reached out to Martha and said something about backpacks, and also talked about shoes, because New Lexington is a long-term facility where the kids stay 6 months to a year as they are redirected to basically a new life. And they have a gym there, so that they need to have gym shoes to play on. So we delivered all of those things, and then we went to work on filling backpacks last spring. And what the women of the Presbytery were charged to bring were very specific toiletries, which they provided. And so in May of this year, we delivered 26 very full backpacks with toiletries, towels, special Bibles, and other things. And that was well received. And then we sent $800 in for the shoe fund for Perry County multi-county. And now we reached out to Steve this summer, and he has provided us with a long list of books and games, and I'm sure they'd love more Cheryl's cookies. So that's what we've been about. And the reports we've received have been powerful confirmation of how much the kids have appreciated it, and their supervisors. Perry multi-county has a very special situation. I think they are not having the problems with turnover that the other facilities are experiencing. But the other thing you must understand is Lancaster Presbyterian had long been connected to the Lancaster multi-county facility. And so when Muriel told her story, because she had a grandson who was there, it tore into all of our hearts. And so it made it so real to us. I think that's part of the reason that the women have been so powerfully connected to this program, because one of our own has a real experience with it and how painful it all is and how much the kids really need us and our support. And so at our last gathering, we wrote cards. We have 70 cards that I still have to send out to the 5 different facilities.
So thank you, Lynn. So it sounds like 2 ways that individuals, families, congregations can be involved. One would be perhaps through your connections to write cards to young people in these facilities, and then financial donations to help you get more books and games. Would those be 2 things that you could think of, ways that individuals, families, and congregations could be involved in that ministry?
If they would make donations to PW/PSV, and on the memo line, put mission project, all those monies will go, because we will continue the backpack project as well each year, because they release about 20 young men from the New Lexington facility. And this is going to be ongoing for the next 2 years.
Okay. So the backpacks go to people who are being released?
Yes, young men who go either back to dysfunctional homes in all likelihood, or they are released to the streets to fend for themselves, which was why we felt it was so important to fill them with so many important things.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lynn. Let me remove the spotlight. Questions, comments, or more input on that? Yeah, Martha.
So she mentioned 3: Lancaster, New Lexington, and Chillicothe. I'm not sure that she mentioned the other 2, Franklin County and also Marysville, were the other 2 facilities that we purchased books and games for, and cookies.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we'll continue to do that this year as well.
Yes. Thank you. Other questions? Clarification things, you're understanding these ministries? All right, so we're going to turn from working with juveniles who are in prison to women who are recently released from prison. And so I'm going to spotlight Cathy Morrison. Cathy is here at Mifflin and is a longtime supporter of Rachel's House and Laurelites Ministry. And I'll let you tell more about that, Cathy.
Okay, Mifflin Church started to work at Lower Lights in 2010. We did things, well, one of the things we did at Rachel's house was we cleaned up a house that had been burnt. We did landscaping, whatever they needed as help. Several years, we went every September. Several years later, a turning point for me was they needed a driver to take a girl to the dentist. And I did that and found out that it can be very difficult in a car with someone who, you know, that you don't know, that you don't have a lot in common with. Of course, I found out as time went on that you have more in common than you think. But one of the turning points for me is one day I took a girl down to the Reformatory that is in the south end of Columbus in Franklin County. And she was very nervous to go in. I volunteered to go in with her, but she wanted to do it by herself. She went in to collect all of her possessions, which she carried out in a box that was maybe 24 by 18. That impacted me quite a bit. And just my conversations, I began then to provide transportation for these women, and I learned a lot from them. When you're in a car, just two of you, conversation takes, you know, goes all over the place. And I began to really learn a lot from these women. So the next step was being a member of community support teams. And on a community support team, you meet with the women every 40 days or so. Rachel's House program is based on phases where they need to accomplish so much in terms of church attendance, service, so much money in the bank. Then they move to another phase and another phase. The job, they have financial mentors, spiritual mentors, and the community support team, the job is to provide support for these women and just let them talk if they need to vent even about the women that they live with in the house, or again, just to provide support, because what I've learned is that's what they need. They need love, they need support. I've been working on various community support teams for 7 or 8 years. I could go on and on about different women, but basically what I have learned is transition is difficult. Managing finances is difficult. Getting a job is extremely difficult. Many, many places will not hire these women because, because they've had a felony. Rachel's House helps quite a bit with this, and thank goodness for places like Blue Fig and Freedom a la carte, Hot Chicken Takeover. These are places that consistently provide jobs to these women. I've also learned that faith in God is a crucial part of their success and their transition. They come from all kinds of backgrounds. I think that many of us that don't get involved with any kind of prison ministry is that we think that everyone that's imprisoned is from the hood, that people get involved in drugs because they're from the hood. And that's not true. I've worked with women who grew up in a church, going to youth group, just all kinds of stories. Most of the women are in prison because of drug trafficking violations, but I've also worked with several women who were imprisoned due to manslaughter and that kind of, but faith is all about forgiveness, and that's what Rachel's House provides, a starting over through Christ. So when Mifflin joined and started up the Matthew 25 group, which I believe was about in 1920-21, they did a Love Your Neighbor campaign. And as a result, they wanted to focus on concrete ways that they could love their neighbor. Many of the women in the group had worked down at Lower Lights. Many had heard me talk about Rachel's House Women, and they decided that they had seen these women when we worked down there, but they didn't really know them. They just saw different women come and go. So they decided that they would like to do some kind of activity on a quarterly basis. They organized this, and we've had some wonderful times with the Rachel's House Women. We have met to make greeting cards together. We have done praying in color. We did a Bible trivia night with 2 teams. It was fantastic. Thanks to Cathy Bubb for the questions. We had so much fun interacting with these women. Another time we decorated picture frames. Another time hosted a cookout and had a graduation ceremony for one of the women that was moving on to her own place. And next month, or later this month, we are having a baby shower for one of the women who is having a baby in December and will be moving on to family housing. I think, to sum it up, one of the women on the Matthew 25 group said this: "I've learned that they are the same as you and me. They love to laugh, are competitive playing cards, and they enjoy all different types of crafts. They've all had far more difficult lives than I have, but their hearts overflow with the hope they've gained through the Rachel's House program. And I think many of us feel we've come away as better people through getting to know them."
Wonderful. Thank you, Cathy. Any questions for Cathy? Welcome. We've had a few folks that have joined us. Cathy Morrison, who is sharing about working with Rachel's House, which is associated with Lower Lights in Franklinton. Questions or comments to Cathy about Mifflin's ministry or opportunities for ministry there? I mean, Cathy mentioned several specific things. One is being drivers. I'm sure that continues to be a need. Being part
Although
of
it stopped during COVID.
Yeah.
You know, that was a problem.
Right. You mentioned community support group. Is that something can be undertaken as an individual?
Yes, and they are always looking for people. I know recently they got 2 new women, and you know, it's not for everybody. I know that they've had some problems with some. You don't go in to try to transform them or make them like you are. You go in to provide love and support. But I've learned more from them than I know they've learned from me. I've learned a lot, and it's been a very rewarding service for me. And if it's something that, you know, people feel they could do, they're always looking for more community support members, as well as financial mentors and spiritual mentors.
Cathy, I don't know what I don't
say
know
again, Betty Lou?
I don't know what Lower Lights is.
Lower Lights is a ministry that has several facets in Franklinton. One of them is Rachel's House, which is the transition from home from women from prison. There are 2 houses, and anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 women might be in a house at a time, living together and working through the phases. They get support in their transition by working with spiritual, financial mentors and the employees at Rachel's House. For like finding jobs, like I said, is extremely difficult, and Rachel's House will help them do that. So it's guidance. Lower Lights also has programs within the Franklinton community to help them build community and pride in their neighborhood. There are some apartments that when we've done our reaching out programs, we have, you know, painted, cleaned, set up apartments where the next step is family housing, where they can be in an apartment on their own, but still receive support from the Lower Lights Church in community. There's also a Bright Lights Kids program where tutors, volunteers work with kids after school that need help with their studies.
That's great, Cathy. Thank you. Another initiative that they are in the process of bringing into reality is a child care center.
Yes.
They're in Franklinton that will both provide quality child care, affordable / free child care for folks in the Franklinton Hilltop area, but also providing training and good paying jobs for folks in that area as well. And so I in the chat, I've put the website for Lower Lights. And again, would encourage you to look at that as you have the opportunity.
Mhm.
Other questions, comments for Cathy? All right, we're going to move to Jim. Jim Martin, who is with Hillard, is going to be sharing about the work that they've been doing. Let me see if I can highlight Jim here. All right. Let's see. There we go.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How's my connectivity?
It's
Good.
okay. If it starts to fade, you might take your video off, and we can just listen if you start to fade out too much.
Okay, thank you. I am at the Kirkmont Center, the church camp here in the Miami Valley Presbytery today. I've got a meeting here after this presentation, so I apologize. I'm outside, so hopefully everybody can hear me and the wind's not too bad. I just wanted to thank everybody and you, Cathy, and Katie, for the opportunity to share about Hillard Presbyterian Church and the mission work that we've been doing. The church itself is about 62 years old, and the church has been working with the Ohio Women's Reformatory for about 55 years. It's much longer than I've been around, and I've only with the Women's Reformatory playing, and they went ahead and just to establish a connection between the church and that community. It started out on.
Yeah, Jim, we've lost you. I wonder if you
A very simple level.
Jim, I wonder if you take your video off and the bandwidth can all go to your speaking. Let's give that a try.
How about now? What did you hear last?
So far better. Yeah, so pick it back up.
What did you hear last?
Yeah, well, we heard most of where you were. It was just cutting out a little bit.
Okay. Well, the softball ended up transitioning into a Bible study program that the church would host with the inmates at the Reformatory, and over time that ended up. One of the activities that was part of the Bible study was one of our church members ended up creating a bingo board that was part of the answers and a way to participate in the Bible study. And as there were several different churches affiliated with the Reformatory that were doing Bible study, the church members asked if they could just do a bingo program, and that was presented and approved with the Reformatory. And so that's been almost over 45 years that the church has been doing a bingo night with the inmates. And there still is a softball field right outside where we participate with the bingo. So the heritage is there. Personally, I've been participating in the bingo for about 8 years, and I participated in that just because I saw some of our church members and how they were actually kind of aging out. And when I looked at the energy and the enthusiasm that they still had, but they really didn't have.
Oh, we lost you there again, Jim.
They're
All right, I'm hoping that Jim will come back on. Jim, can we get you back again?
There's, oh, shoot.
Yeah,
How about now?
yeah, you were going strong until you got to, the folks were aging out. And you saw they still had a lot of interest and enthusiasm in bingo, and that's why you stepped in.
Yes. So can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good again.
Fantastic. So, so I have been involved, like I say, for about 8 years. And what we do is we basically, through the church, HPC, we ask for and have been tremendously supported in the with prizes that we award to the inmates. And our church has very graciously donated different prizes over time. Currently, we just started back last October. We were finally able to come back in and participate with the ministry again. We were off for probably almost over 2.5 years, as with everybody else with COVID. So, but we did pester them just enough that they allowed us to come back in. And so just in October, we were able to reinstigate our bingo night. And very warmly received. The inmates have always been very appreciative, very grateful for the time. We've always enjoyed it. There are 2 other members of our team on the call with me now, Reverend Katie Kennison and Jim Ray, who have been fortunate enough to participate in the event. And really, we all have benefited tremendously from sharing with the inmates and letting them know that they are loved, that they are appreciated, and that we haven't forgot about them. And they always share with us how much they enjoy the break in their routine and be able to come and then just play and have fun and enjoy a little bit of competition. And really, we're motivated to give out as absolutely many prizes as we can. So we get to do it we do it once a month, and we get to participate for about an hour or an hour and 15 minutes. And we have a special service or special evening in December where we present Christmas gift bags for all the participants. And so everybody goes out of there a winner that day. But we through the program, through the Reformatory, the inmates, they need to earn the opportunity to participate in the bingo. So it's motivating for them. They're always very appreciative. They're always on their best behavior, and it's always a wonderful evening. And we're just so grateful that we've been able to participate again because for us, having the opportunity to share God's love and God's grace and God's forgiveness with them, and just to join with them in fellowship, has just really been a very awesome experience for all of us.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jim. You mentioned that Katie and another Jim also on the call. Questions that you all have for Jim, or anything that Katie or other Jim want to add, information that you want to add to share about that. It looks like a question from Susan and then one from Janice.
Yeah, Jim, I'd like to know, or any of you, what kind of prizes do you give at bingo, and what would also be what's in the gift bags for Christmas?
Sure. The prizes have evolved over time. Before COVID, we got to do more personal items, personal toiletries, pens, papers, and things like that. But since we've come back after COVID, they've wanted us to limit it really just to small pieces of candies, things that really the inmates would consume and then not kind of have with them on a regular basis. They think they're trying to cut down on the inventory that the inmates have. And so they've asked us to really change our prizes and have just had it be just candy. So, but at Christmas time, we have been able to get the opportunity to bring in some personal toiletries, soaps, shampoos, toothbrush, toothpaste. One of the favorite things that we've done in the past is our women's group, and we've got a quilters group that have made stocking caps. And so those have always been a very cherished item. And then we've also in years past been able to bring the knitted gloves. Those items have also been, we haven't got the green light to be able to bring those back for our December event, but we take assistant and we're going to see what we can do to bring as much care to the inmates as we can.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Was that Susan?
Yeah, Janice had a question and then Katie.
Hi, Jim. I actually am involved in Kindway, the Embark program myself, which is why my pastor at Worthington Pres knew I would be very interested in this. So for your bingo, so you said you moved from Bible study to bingo. Is it a scripture that you call out for bingo, or it's not biblically based at all?
No, the only spiritual connection that we can share, and they've been very specific that this is not Bible study. This is only you've kind of frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. It is strictly regular games of bingo, and they know that we are from the church. They know what we are about. They know why we are there, and they know that we are there just to share God's love and care.
Amen.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Good question, Janice. Yeah, Katie, you were going to share something.
It was my first time last time, and getting into it, there's a lot of bureaucracy. Jim had to help me fill out the form, I think 3 times. So you need to know that kind of thing going in. But when we walked in, our members who were there started to glow. I think maybe they levitated. They were so happy to be in that space again. And you don't need, it was really clear, you don't need to quote scripture for them to feel the love of God, the lack of judgment in a space. It was holy ground and full of joy. I also got to talk with the chaplain there, the person who helped organize all that and negotiates all the rules. The women have a small box that they're allowed to keep their things in. Cathy referred to that earlier. They really aren't allowed to have much. And there's also happening in the prison a kind of barter system with goods. And so they were really concerned about that and how it works. And you put that up against the fact that as you mentioned, Lynn, that they have to buy things that they like, and they have to buy things like deodorant and shampoo. So learning more about how prisons work can help us all really understand about what the lives are like for so many people in the state and in our country. There are a lot of people incarcerated.
Thanks. So Jim, would you say is there a need for more people to go to the bingo calling, or you feel, or Hillard has enough? How can other people get involved in that ministry?
Well, the opportunities to participate in different types of ministry at the Reformatory are great. They have, I think they're still just welcoming some folks back in, but we have contacts there. If there are other folks to have bingo happen on another night. I mean, before COVID, I asked the question, is this something that if we could come up with the prizes and if we could come up with the staff that we could do twice a month? And the answer before was yes. So I would encourage other churches, if they want to do something like this, to reach out to me or to Pastor Katie and go ahead and share your desire, and we'll make the connections. We'll kind of grease the wheels, because they are so appreciative and so grateful. To be able to do this once a week would be outstanding.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments for Jim? All right, we're going to turn to Barbara Marshall. Barbara is at Covenant, and she is going to, nope, let's see, did I get it right? Yes, she's going to share with us about their work with Catch Court.
Okay, let me start my timer here. Catch Court. Changing actions to change habits. And this all started in 2009 with Judge Paul Herbert. He was a common pleas court judge who saw women who were victims of domestic violence. And he also saw women who had been arrested for soliciting. And it occurred to him as he looked from one group to another, these women are no different. They are both victims. And so he saw these women who had been arrested for soliciting as victims of human trafficking. So he went to the Supreme Court and was able to start a special docket, 2-year probation program called Catch Court. And it has lived up to its name, Changing Actions to Change Habits. It was Katie Kennison who got us involved with Catch Court about 10 years ago when volunteers were being allowed to come into the courtroom. The women are visited in jail by someone from the Catch Court staff who explained the probation procedure. And if it's a grueling 2 years, a hard 2 years, but a very worthwhile one. And if they are interested, they go before the judge and plead into the court. They are provided with the needed services. They are sent to various treatment centers, and they report back to the court every Thursday of the month, and they are served lunch. So it's been our privilege for 10 years to serve lunch the first Thursday of the month. And we are quite a group of women pulling our little wagons from the parking lot filled with it's like Thanksgiving. These women are treated, it is a privilege to do. We served last Thursday. We purchased petite sandwiches from Giant Eagle, and believe it or not, egg salad reigns. It rocks. That's what it is. And everything else is donated by our members, and they go out and buy the best of the best. We must have had 6 pounds of beautiful strawberries and grapes. Our vegetables were cauliflower and broccoli, the kind of thing that you might serve your family for Thanksgiving. So we always have plenty of food. We have all the healthy things, and then we of course have chips, cheese, cookies, and bottled water. And if you have to lug 40 bottles of water, you know how heavy they are. Anyway, there's plenty of food for people to come back for second helpings or even third helpings. And after everyone has finished everything they want to eat, we package things, and they are either sent home with the women for later meals or give to homeless people they meet along the street. Anything left goes to a sanctuary house or maybe to one of the treatment centers. So we really feel that we bring not only food, but friendship and fellowship. We get to know the women and hold their babies and talk about how they're doing in school. And it's just really a privilege. And we do all this in an hour's time. And then we pack up and we're out of there. We are able to stay for the court, and we do that at times too. But our involvement has gone far beyond lunch. We host an annual Christmas luncheon at Covenant, and that's with homemade food and a gift bag, and really a time that they can all be together all at once. We also donate to other seasonal meals throughout the year that are in various locations. Other things that we also do an adopt a family. In our church, within our church building, we have hosted parenting classes. and also book clubs. One of our, at least one of our team is mentoring a woman who's working toward her GED. We have had members who have driven the Catch women to appointments, help them find clothes for an interview, just whatever is needed. We have also purchased logo T-shirts for the women when they come into court, when they are accepted into it's almost like they're accepted into a club. There's so much hugging and clapping and, oh, you're going to love this. It's wonderful. So they're given their T-shirt with the logo. And we were asked if we could supply hoodies and sweats for that transitional period like now, when you don't need a coat, but you're cold. So we have responded to that. Something that we've done twice lately is to donate funds for to have driver's license reinstated. Driver's license are revoked for many reasons, not just driving infractions. And there are so many penalties that are added on that have nothing to do with driving. It might be being late to something or missing something. So the women really end up with an insurmountable fee. And so we have been able to be helpful in paying those fees so they can get their driver's license back. And if you have a driver's license, you can find housing easier. You don't have to live on a bus line. You can take a job that's a little further away. You can see your kids or get your kids. So that's really been crucial. It has changed lives. We also we put together toiletry bags for women leaving jail because they come out with their clothes and that's it. So we do basic toiletries, everything they need in a very heavy bag. And lately we've been advised, hey, not everybody has hair like yours. So can we have something for people who have really curly hair or really coarse hair? So we have really done a study on that and have tried to make equalized bags so that there's something for everyone. We also write notes of encouragement to women in jail. Okay, so so that we do many things with Catch Court, but Catch Court also spills, I can't talk about Catch without Freedom a la carte, which provides workforce development, housing, employment, whatever the Catch women have, whatever the problem, there's someone at Freedom that's going to help them find a solution for it. And then even beyond Freedom are butterflies. These women will need support probably as long as they are alive. And they get it from this big circle of friends. And I do meet friends. They have periodic events through the year, which we are very involved with. So you know what? I actually got through my checklist. So I'd like to go back for a minute and talk about these women are wonderful. They support each other. Every Catch Court, they go around and they talk about what's the high points of the week, what's the low points. There is so much celebration of high points. You know, they hug, and the low points, oh my gosh, the tears that pour out supporting these women is just absolutely amazing. These are some of the brightest, smartest, sweetest, most wonderful women I've ever met. And I am so thrilled I feel blessed to know them and to be of some small help with them. We really love them.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Questions that any of you have for Barbara?
And it all started with Katie Kennison.
Props to Katie. Katie has shared in the chat some of the names of things that Barbara had shared with us.
And may I also say that we were really the catalyst for another church has become just as involved, because one of their members, heard me talk about this in book club. And she said, could I go with you sometime? And she did. And now they are full in.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
so
was-
so how might church, question from Lynn. Yes, Lynn.
So what you're saying is that other churches could do the same work just on a different Thursday or whatever day it was?
There, really, you can't talk about catch without talking about freedom a la carte and butterflies. There are so many opportunities to help with freedom a la carte, which is really, they provide the services to catch courts. So they are so intertwined. Anything you do from freedom a la carte, you're doing for catch court, you're doing for women who have gone through, who have graduated out, who are now butterflies. So there are opportunities to mentor, to volunteer at Freedom Cafe, to support the adoptive family. I would say I can put you in touch with Freedom a la carte, and there would be all kinds of opportunities for one-time things or ongoing.
Great, thanks. Good question, Lynn. Thank you. Other questions, comments?
I would ditto the freedom a la carte because I know that they've hired women from Rachel's house as well.
Yes.
That's a wonderful thing because they have so much trouble finding employment. I would also ask if people are looking for causes any time of the year, but especially during the holiday season. Barbara, you mentioned the toiletry kits, and Rachel's house always gives a welcoming basket to every woman who comes that has toiletries and towels and some things to get started. But another thing in common that you mentioned was transportation. So Rachel's house will always say, if you're looking for something to donate, a CODA bus gift card or a Walmart gift card are two of the best things that you can do.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Cathy. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Other thoughts? As you mentioned, well, I'm gonna come, oh, sorry, Betty Lou.
I just want to point everybody to the chat. If you haven't been in the chat, Katie is providing good, and there's a lot of good information.
Good.
Yeah, great.
All of these are wonderful organizations that are really,
Yes,
all come together.
I want to have a little summary time for some of the things that we talked about, but I really want to make sure I highlight this. I don't know how many of you get Presbyterian Outlook, but the Presbyterian Outlook October 24th edition is Lord, when did we visit you in prison, ministering among the incarcerated? And they have several articles, but the in focus key article is One Parish, One Prisoner, written by Chris Hoke. That it's a very lengthy article because he goes into amazing detail about not just his efforts to connect, as it says, one parish, one prisoner, a church to sponsor someone who has been in jail coming out, and very detailed about that, but also about what several of you have spotlighted. Prison ministry is not all about warm fuzzies. Prison ministry is dealing with people who have so many challenges in their lives. And so to get invested and involved is so worth it, but you have to go to walk alongside and not to assume, oh, I'm going to save them. And if I become their friend and mentor and helper, all their life will be great. And I just thought that the article in the Outlook really hits home with that and talks about how churches who committed to helping a prisoner once released, the prisoner went back to drugs or something, and how do we deal with those kinds of issues when we would like to think that our love and best effort will save folks, but it's not. So I really commend to you. I put it here in the chat, Presbyterian Outlook, the article here, several good articles in it. So other things I want to highlight, a few folks have to head out, but I just want to briefly highlight then some of the things that we said. One that wasn't specifically said, but I think you have picked up. You can easily support some of these organizations by where you choose to eat. Have lunch at Freedom a la carte. If you're having an event, our women's event last spring, we had it catered by Freedom a la carte. Go to Hot Chicken Takeover, go to Blue and Fig. Support these restaurants that are hiring people who are formerly incarcerated. We have writing cards and giving money through the juvenile facilities, being drivers, offering that service to Rachel's house, prizes for women at the Ohio Reformatory. Maybe your church wants to take a bigger step and offer a bingo night, can consider that opportunity. Katie put up in the chat opportunities to get involved with Freedom a la carte, serving lunch with them. And of course, prayers. Prayers for the people involved in incarceration, prayers for those who work with the incarcerated, prayers for churches and others. Yeah, Martha. I'm gonna let you unmute. I thought you were leaning forward to unmute, so there you go.
So I just wanted to share just really briefly a prison ministry that happens at First Presbyterian Church in Lancaster, where I'm a member. We have for quite a number of years been involved with the Southeast Correctional Institute with a yearly interactive Christmas party that includes other area churches. So it's not just our church. And this all comes under the heading of the Wings Ministry, which is a national ministry. But they're the ones, I think, who came in and asked us to participate. And so what we do is provide volunteers for this party. And we also, one of the things that we provided was like uniced cookies. And so this is a Christmas party that we have at the correctional facility. And it's where the family members come in to visit the inmates. So it's wives and children. And so then they do activities together. And we're there to supervise. We help them
Lynn Coon,
with some of their
COONS.
So we've done this every year, and it usually happens the very beginning of December. But again, inmates have to be on their good behavior to even get it invited to this. But it brings families together and then being able to share with them during this time. And there's all kinds of hoops you had to go through to enter and so forth. But this was a ministry that we had at our church for a number of years. I don't know whether it's still going on since COVID. I just don't know that.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that. So I do want to share two of the quick things, and then anybody else that wants to, Stephen, please.
Yes, I came in a few minutes late, and so the first person who was talking about backpacks and things for youth, I was a little bit confused about the institutions, the prisons in which they were working, because I had worked in the Circleville prison, and I didn't know that was not mentioned as one of the prison institutions. Could anybody
Yes,
clarify that?
they were talking specifically about juvenile facilities.
Yeah, the Circleville is juvenile, and I
Lancaster,
thought,
Chillicothe, New Lexington, Franklin County, and Marysville.
Okay, but they don't work with Circleville?
But these are detention centers, they're not really prisons.
Okay, that's, yeah.
There are youth correctional prisons, yes, but these are a different category than that.
Okay, so these are short term, I take it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that was what I was confused about, because the correctional institution in Circleville and the other 4 around the state
Right.
were not the ones that you were talking about.
No.
Okay.
No, these are mostly short-term. The Perry County, Perry Multi-County Juvenile Detention Center does have a little longer term for some of them, but it's still only 6 months to a year.
Okay, thank you. And Martha, are you the contact person, or was it someone else who was?
So it was Lynn Coon's, which
Lynn
is our
Coon's.
vice moderator. I'm the moderator, PWPSB.
Okay. Mhm. Thank you very much.
Either one of us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Other questions that you all have or comments? 2 other things I would share. One is, if you're not familiar, that the PCUSA has, I trying to find a resource link to a store, but there's lots more information. One of the things is that connects with systemic poverty is the issue of cash bail. And that issue's been politicized, surprise, surprise, with our upcoming election. So, but I would encourage you to be informed about the issues of cash bail. From our speaker, Juan Martinez, who spoke last month, as I was looking, numbers as high as 70 to 80% of people who are currently in our prisons are awaiting trial. They're and can be in there, and by the time they get to their court appearance, they have already served more than what they would have gotten for the time had they been convicted, because they can't afford to get out of prison. And so if your heart is for bigger changes, reading books like New Jim Crow,
Rethinking Incarceration.
Thank you, Katie. And maybe those are the kind, if you have a book club, maybe those would be books that you might encourage, your book club to read and really wrestle with some of these issues of, so to be really involved in Matthew 25, it's both addressing the needs of the individual, but also trying to look at what are these systems that need to be changed. And so, I appreciate all of you being a part of this conversation. We've left with lots of, I hope, really helpful ideas. We'll be writing this up to have to share in the PSV Weekly, and this video will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you have been intrigued by something and you want to kind of hear it again, it'll be up by first of the week. You can listen to it again. You can share it with your mission teams. Again, there's some really small ways to get involved, bigger steps, and then, of course, the really big picture. Any final questions, comments? Again, delighted that you were all on. Thank you to our presenters, to Barbara and Jim and Cathy and Lynn, in particular, for your time with us. Yeah, Katie.
If you are thinking of starting a prison ministry and you're watching this, I would say 1, do some education, learn a little bit, and 2, practice not judging, opening your heart and honoring the person who's before you as someone equal to you as a child of God. If you start there, everything will be fine.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Final questions, thoughts, concerns from anyone?
Cathy,
Yes,
I just want to say thank you to all of you. I have got so many things written down here, and I'm looking forward to going back, and I thank you all. It was a wonderful presentation by all of you, and you've touched my heart and answered some questions and opened up more questions, which is good because that's how it should be. And I thank you all. It's great.
Wonderful. Well, let's close with prayer. Loving God, we thank you for calling us to this place. We can be overwhelmed by issues surrounding prison ministry. We ask that you speak to our hearts to know what you would have us do in this time and place, whether as individuals, as families, as congregations, as even yet as a country. Help us to love and see each person as you love and see them. Help us to find ways to walk alongside those who have been or are incarcerated Help us to have loving hearts, to set aside our judgments and to embrace them as beloved children of God. Amen.
Amen. Thank
So
you.
again, I'm going to stop our recording.